Morning everyone. So Neil's asked me to keep a tight ship, so Nikki, thank you very much. I think that was fascinating to understand where we're at. I'm going to only do 3 things for you today. The first one is, can I just ask your permission if I can take off my jacket? So I can't work and have fun while we pretending we're actually working. Okay, I'm going to do 3 things. The first thing I'm going to do, we're going to answer the question, why? The second thing I'm going to do, we're going to answer the question, how? And lastly, I'm going to focus on the question, what? So, in simple terms, why do we do what we do? And Nelson Mandela said, money won't create success, the freedom to make it will. Well, for me personally, I had something that really impacted my life. And basically, my father, in 1995, always wanted to work for himself. He went on his own. And 10 years later, he passed away. And my father was paid 500,000 Rand. And he gave it to a financial plan in 1995. And in 2005, my mother was paid 480,000 Rand, which is a phenomenal return. And I guarantee that the financial planner made fees the entire way through the process. I showed her very quickly, my mother, that if she had literally, the average house price in 1995 was 166,000. She had bought 5 of them, she would have had a 40% loan to value. 10 years later, she'd be earning 107,000 Rand per year, net, and a value of 2.7. And in simple terms, today, she'd be earning 2 million Rand net, with a value of 5.35. A little bit better than the financial planner's predictions. The second person that had a massive influence on my life was my uncle. And interesting enough, he at the age of 30, he's a stockbroker, so nothing to do with property, but he decided to take control of what he was going to do. And he invested and made his own money in the stock market, but at the age of 30, he opened a bank account overseas. And what he made at home, he was living in Zimbabwe, he invested some of that overseas. And at the age of 53, in 2003, he decided it was time, it was better for him and his family to go to Australia. Now, whether that's right or wrong, that's irrelevant. The point being, is at the age of 53, he bought his way into Australia. Anyone who has tried that will know that after 45, it's quite tricky. He bought a house for $1.8 million cash. He sent his kid to a private school. And the most important thing that he did, in my opinion, was he retired and he didn't have to work for an Australian. Why we do what we do is to provide people the freedom so that they too can have those choices. They too can decide where they want to live, where their kids go to school, where their kids go to university. We've embarked on property, and Golf alluded to it. All that we've ever really done is property. I'm just going to take this down so I can also point to this board. And as Neil said, I'm running a tight ship here, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time with it. But that was my first project I did when I was 13. I extended the family house and built myself a bedroom and a bathroom. I'm sure with some help from a QS and an architect. That was our first project when we were 22, development in Cape Town. Our first London project when we were 24. And subsequently, we've done thousands in South Africa, helping and facilitating people to invest, hundreds in London, hundreds in Australia, and hundreds in America. You'll see that there's quite a strong focus on residential, but to be fair, in the last couple of years, we've got quite aggressively involved in the commercial side. That building there, we're very proud to say we just completed on that building in the end of August. If you want to understand the power of crowdfunding, that's a $16 million transaction. I might or might not be able to go through the numbers with you, but the bottom line is $6 million, over 70 million Rand, was raised on 5 different continents, from as far afield as Pakistan and Thailand. Why are we excited about what we do? Some people sometimes come across a new technology, a new fad, or a game changer. I've been passionate about one thing only my whole life. How can we use IT to revolutionize the property industry? I wrote a dissertation on it in 1998 at an undergrad level. I wrote a master's on it in 2001, and I've spent my entire life trying to persuade the IT industry and the regulators that we were allowed to do it. The beauty is that it's happened. There's a tsunami of change coming, and there are three destructive powers that are literally all colliding together and allowing it to happen. The very first one is the transformational power of technology. In simple terms, because we have the internet, we can have Amazon. If there wasn't Amazon, there wouldn't be a platform. If there wasn't the internet, there wouldn't be Amazon because there wouldn't be a platform. The second one is the adoption of technology. So we all started off on the internet with internet dating. Maybe not all of you, but I did. Then we started to share information in terms of emails. Then we started to buy aeroplane tickets. Then, believe it or not, we went to internet banking. My mother's still struggling with that step. But the last step is that we're going to go to using investment online. And the third transformational power, which Dolph already alluded to, is that there's been a regulatory change. If you'd asked me 6 months ago, I would have said to you, and I shared this yesterday with some people, but I would have said to you yesterday, this was going to be our biggest challenge. I figured that it was going to be exactly like what Dolph alluded to in terms of an Arab Spring. I thought that because this is good for people, people would force the regulators to change. It's been the complete opposite. Literally, the privatization of capital worldwide is being revolutionized. And just like Nikki spoke about, governments actually want to have their regulations in place so that the capital comes into their countries. It empowers small business to grow. It creates jobs. It enables people to be able to invest in property and other asset classes. And that because of that, governments around the world are scrambling to get their regulations in place. But the great thing is that those three things coming together has allowed us to have crowdfunding. Now, quite a few of you probably sitting there going, what are they talking about? It sounds complicated, I don't like it, and I'm scared by it. It's no different to a stokvel. It's no different to what's been happening in Africa for centuries. There's 80,000 stokvels in South Africa today that are managing $1.2 billion worth of funds. And all that crowdfunding is it's a stokvel using technology. That's it. It's no different to the synagogue. And to be honest, it's not too different, and I can't pronounce it, to Biwei, which is an ancient Chinese tradition of women coming together and doing exactly like a stokvel. So what are the three essences of those? The first one is trust. Now most of you sit there and go, but how could I trust people? How could I buy something on the internet? It's scary. Well, if you look at eBay, and I know at home we've got bid or buy, I learned, does anyone know here how you get trust on eBay or bid or buy? So I love watching rugby. In 2003, I lost £12,000 buying tickets to the Rugby World Cup in Australia. And I figured out quite quickly how to use this thing for trust. So if you look up there in the top right corner, I made it bigger for you. If you go now if I came along to Sue and I said, I know Sue, so I come along to Sue, and Sue phones me up and says, listen, I've got 2 tickets to rugby. They're going to cost $1,000 each. Just put it in my bank account and I'll post the tickets. Because we know each other, I can pretty much guarantee you that she'll send me the tickets, yes or no? Well, on the internet, what social proofing is that 7104 Leslie has done 974 transactions and has 100% positive feedback. I never have to have met 7104 Leslie to know for a fact that he will deliver. He's done it 974 times, and it's more important for him to deliver 975 times than it is to try and cheat me. Does that make sense? As a matter of interest, on Thursday, if you think this is rubbish, on Thursday when I did this presentation, I wanted to buy 12 tickets to the Springbok All Black game on the 4th of October. I put 18,000 Rand in a gentleman's bank account at 12 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, and while Erwin was presenting at 3 o'clock, my tickets were dropped off at my office. Never met the guy before, but I trust social proofing. Now, the impact of social proofing works both ways. How many of you have been involved in a transaction where this lovely lady over here promised me she would put in 10,000 Rand or buy the house, and then reneged because her Maltese poodle needed to go for a haircut? Works both ways. Whoa. Dude. Transparency. You know, the real thing about technology that I love most is transparency. My generation wants to know what's going on. And the beauty is of a dashboard or of a cell phone, what we've got and what is happening in crowdfunding is so simple. You literally sign up, you can select your investments based on your risk profile, you can do the entire transaction online, and the best part for me is I never have to get another email in my life because I can manage my entire portfolio in one place. In terms of transacting online, it took us over 2 years to figure out how to open a bank account in America. I've been asking lawyers for years why I have to sign 86-page contracts when I buy a house. You can now do everything online. We opened a bank account last time we were out here in May in 6 minutes, all online in America, and you can transfer money there. And the last thing that I think is probably the most important part is that the interests are aligned. So just like the animals, just like in nature, a bird flying in a flock can fly 70% further than a bird flying on its own. And interestingly enough, this bird up the top is taking the most strain, and these birds on the outside are taking the second most strain. Now, 20th century thinking is that this bird wants to make all the profit, so it tries to kill this bird and screw this bird over. But 21st century thinking is that this bird gets tired, so it drops back into the flock and one of the other ones goes up to the front. It's been happening since time started, but for some reason in business it's different. One of the lessons I've learned, most importantly, look at any relationship you've ever had, and if the interests were not aligned, it was not sustainable. After you've just learned that process, start analyzing every single time. If the interests are aligned, it's not sustainable. What does that mean to property? Let's look at the current property model. Joe Soap wants to invest in a property. At the moment, he's got to go through an investment broker, a pension fund, a private equity fund with a 2 and 20 model, a real estate broker, and that's actually in kind. Because I still haven't put in all the bank fees, the purchase management fees, etc., etc. Am I right or wrong? So the other problem is that Joe Soap doesn't get equal access to the best opportunities. He pays higher fees, and there's virtually no transparency. You have to have an MBA from Harvard to look at the set of accounts to figure out that they're paying themselves bonuses but actually making a loss. We call that economic leakage. What could be a very good property over here with a 20% IRR ultimately pays Joe Soap 6%, and according to Nikki, that's inflation, and I stay poor for the rest of my life. Where we're going is that. Jill Soap wants to invest in a property. She uses an online platform with no fees, no middlemen, and all that they do is benefit from the upside. If you want to understand the size of this, Dolph alluded to these stats. There was a recent document that came out to a recent actual event in America at one of the biggest and most respected American universities. I reckon the size of this industry by 2025 will be 90 to 96 billion, which is 1.8 times the entire size of the global venture capital industry today. That's the why, the crowd. I just need my whiteboard back to you. I'm not going to go into the 5 most dangerous trends for South Africa. We don't have the time, and I think Nikki alluded to it most. But in simple terms, I'll just put the 8 of them on the screen. Wealth preservation and currency devaluation are the most important for me. And again, I think that Nikki's alluded to this. Thank you. So I'm not going to... I've got my stopwatch on, ladies. But most importantly, without doubt, there's a trend and it ain't changing. So the impact that has on us as South Africans is that, and I wrote about it all in my book in chapter 2, is that we did a full report, and if you look at it according to the Global Wealth Index, we're losing 29.5% a year. We have done year on year for the last 30 years. If you look at it from a business perspective, Nikki's alluded to it, but when some of the biggest Rio Tinto, Anglo-American, and Billiton all say that they're divesting from South Africa, there's something that I need to know about. And lastly, from my perspective, as to why this is so important, is that I personally own some assets in Africa already. That was my farm in Zimbabwe. That was my family home. Those are the new tenants. They don't have title deeds, by the way, because I do. And that was our very agricultural land. I love Africa, absolutely love living here. I just choose not to have all my wealth living here. So how do you do it? And really simply, how you do it is only two things. You have information and you have the right partners. I don't have time today to share with you one of the most interesting experiences I've had in recent times. I had the privilege of, in Singapore, meeting up with Jim Rogers. Now, Jim Rogers is one of the most, he's literally got on a bike and ridden all over the world. He also is the partner of George Soros. They started the Quantum Fund in 1973. He's a billionaire. And for over 4 decades, he's told us what is going to happen, and it's happened. He opened the Rogers Index for commodities in 1999. He called the bottom of the bear market within 3 months on a 16-year cycle. Is that good or bad, yes or no? He was the first hedge fund in the 70s to be investing outside of America. He reckons that right now, rather than living in New York or London, you should have moved to London in the 1800s. You should have moved to New York in the 1900s. And you should be living in Singapore or Hong Kong or Shanghai now in the 21st century. And I don't have time to share with you, but over breakfast, he shared with me where the world was going, some of the biggest trends. And I'll give you some examples. Some of the best places to look right now are Angola, Myanmar, formerly known as Burma, or North Korea. If you want to look at long-term trends, oh, and by the way, just in case you want to understand more about that, I can't more highly recommend this book. It's his latest book out, Street Smarts, by Jim Rogers. There's some of the best long-term trends. If you look at MIPIM, it's the biggest property event in the world. My business partner, Henny, was there in March. The 2 biggest trends they spoke about in property was medical and residential, but only in specific markets. And the one thing Jim Rogers said, in America, if you're looking to invest in America, you want to be, or anywhere in the world actually, you want to be investing on agricultural land, you want to be investing where there's oil, and you want to be looking, in America specifically, at medical, because over 16% of their GNP is actually in the medical industry. One of the systems and one of the things we did was that we created an entire 4-dimensional model with Clem Santa. Now Clem, if you haven't watched his talks, I would highly recommend it. He's got a scenario, like Nikki spoke of, for the global scenario. He's got a scenario for the South African scenario. And in simple terms, I then took what he was teaching, created a model with it, and he was kind enough to endorse it. If you really want to know what it is, it's a flag system. You know, when Nikki gives you numbers like she has, the way my mind works is those are red flags going up, and I need to be aware of it. But the question is not just be aware of it, what do I do with it? So I don't have time to go into this, but if you want to read his book, The Mind of the Fox, or just go to their website, mindofthefox.co.za. He's got 4 scenarios for South Africa, for the world. That then helps people decide where they should invest. They should look at what they're investing in. Then he's got 3 scenarios for South Africa. The only thing I would point out is that South Africa at the moment, he has a 1 in 4 chance of us going like Zimbabwe or Syria. And that ultimately helps us decide where we should invest and what we should ultimately do. If you look, and I can send you an email as to where to get the best research. It's not what the estate agents are wanting to tell you, or no disrespect, Nikki, but even the banks. It's literally the research houses that don't have any up and down as to what's happening in the different markets. I can send you a graph, and the computer's all the way back there, where you can literally look at the best research in the property market for the last, since 1975. And against multiple different indices, you can see price performance, area, return, and basically results. That then allowed us to create a model, both on risk and return, as to where one should or shouldn't be looking to invest. It's not based on gut feel. It's not based on where we think things should or shouldn't be. It's based on pure numbers. The first fundamental is all based on what Clem Santa's doing. The second one is all based on the economists. The third one is all based on the facts in terms of the property industry. The fourth one is rule of law, which South Africans really need to know about and don't take into account as much as they should. And then on the return side, the biggest lesson I learned through the global financial crisis: he who focuses on income not only survives but thrives, and he who focuses on capital growth, it's like betting against winter. It's only a matter of time until it arrives. So we give it a 70% weighting. And just based on current numbers, that's where you find it. It gives you a matrix of where you should or shouldn't be looking. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just what it is based on the facts. And it obviously changes as the facts change. Another big lesson I've learned in international property, if you think that you're going to buy a property and get a passport, you're pretty much guaranteed to fail. There's not once in any country that I've seen anyone get a passport and get a good investment. They're mutually exclusive. It's like buying a boat. In terms of finding the right partners, we've got three things to find the right partners. They've got to have extensive experience, they've got to be really good in a niche, and they've got to have scalability. As an example, this is one of our business partners, Henny the Savo. That's one of the hospitals he's building in Bloemfontein. He's currently building 14 hospitals in South Africa. He's just got another contract for another 10 hospitals, not only in South Africa, but north of the borders. He helped us. He's been doing commercial property, commercial medical property in South Africa since 1992. He's also done in Australia and now in America on that medical deal. He helped us. We had a very good partner on the ground. I don't need or know anything about medical, but would you like to invest with someone like that that's been doing medical since 1992? That for me is the power of crowdfunding. In the past, I needed $6 million to be able to access that deal. And to be honest, I didn't even have the experience to be able to do it. But now I got to sit and have the opportunity to put $100,000 in with people like Dolph and Henny and Alan and Paul on the ground, very experienced commercial people that were analyzing the deal. And I got to partner with them with the exact same shares, the exact same, treated in exactly the same way. So finally, what do we do? And in simple terms, we've answered the why, we've answered the how, but what do we do? And there's three parts to it. You need to focus on where in the world you're going to start. I'm not going to go through this in much detail because Dolph's already alluded to it, but I think the number one thing that differentiates us from virtually everyone is that we are real estate or property people that have embraced technology, not technology people that have looked for the next fad. It's a fundamental difference. I do believe in the crowdfunding space, there's going to be a significant pop at some point, because a lot of people don't know how to do due diligence and they will make mistakes. We got our SEC compliance certificate in May. We're now fully legal in South Africa. The South African site is now up and running. So in simple terms, around the world, and Neil, I'm conscious of the time, don't you stress. No, according to your time, I've got my stopwatch here. That's where we plan to be in the next 6 months. As Dolph said, we're not in Antarctica. We started off in South Africa and America because we believe that's where some of the best opportunities were and also where we had the deepest relationships with partners. We've got Australia up and running, although we've been in Australia since 2008. We've got the UK up and running. I lived in London for over 9 years. Dolph's got a huge amount of experience in Asia, and we put a huge focus on Asia for investors. We've opened an office in Singapore. And we believe that Africa is also a magnificent opportunity. Justin, you were mentioning it just yesterday. Going and buying good quality assets in Africa. Crowdfunding will provide you with the bridge of safety. First world people will be able to invest in the emerging world with a lot more trust and transparency. And people in the emerging world will be able to invest in the first world with a lot more trust and transparency. So that you can get access to opportunities like this. And again, I'm not going to waste time with this, but there is a piece of paper where you can see all these numbers. Whether it's residential houses or industrial flex space or factory lifts that we're doing in the oil regions, or whether, literally, Yanni Millman recently came on a buyer's trip. I can't recommend anything more than getting on a plane and coming with us. Come to Australia, come to America, come and see what's happening on the ground. Come to Bloemfontein, believe it or not. That's the medical deal that we've just done, and I said the numbers are up there. We've got a lot going on in Australia, and as I said to you, we've got a lot going on in Africa. So in conclusion, Dolph alluded to it, there's three types of people. This wave is coming whether you like it or not. You can be the person that is sitting there and the wave will hit you, just like the people that made Volkswagens or Rode-REIM, cars are coming. You can be the second person, you can sit on the beach, you can come to an awesome event like this and you can hear what's going to happen, but by the time the wave hits you on the beach, it's too late. Or to be honest, as a surfer, and probably Durban understands this more than most, You've got to trust that it's coming. You've got to get on a board. You've got to go to backline. And when that wave comes, you've got to paddle with all your might, so that when it arrives, you have the momentum to catch that wave. But there's nothing better than dropping in over the top, feeling the acceleration, the excitement, being in flow, having momentum, enjoying the ride, and most importantly, doing something which is going to change the planet, not only for the good for you, but for every individual on this planet. You have that choice. We leave you, we want to give you a gift. Our vision is to be tomorrow's simple answer for like-minded property investors to create global wealth today. If you fill in this investment strategy sheet, which is on all of your desks, I'll send you a copy of my book, but not only a copy of my book. This industry is changing so fast. It's not by the month even it's changing. But we will try and keep you updated so that you know what to look out for, so that you too have the surfboards to be able to ride this wave. Thank you very much. Cheers.